Good morning. I am delighted to introduce Dr. John McKeon. John is the CEO of Allergy Standards Limited, the scientific organization that developed and maintains the international standards that are utilized for the asthma and allergy-friendly certification program. As an ER physician, John frequently interacted with allergy sufferers and their families. He observed that allergy and asthma sufferers are inundated with information, yet found it difficult to distill all the varying information about asthma and allergies and know what to believe in order to make the best purchase decisions for their families. John began his medical career in 1996 and is a fellow of the Royal College of Surgeons in Ireland, and he also holds his United States medical licensing exams. John currently resides in Dublin. Good morning and welcome, John.
Well, great. Dina, Karen, thank you very much for organizing this webinar. And this morning I want to talk to you about the asthma and allergy friendly certification program. Dina's already said that she's going to make my contact details available, but I'm very much happy to link in with you on LinkedIn. So I put up my details there. As mentioned, I'm the CEO of Allergy Standards, which is an international testing and certification body, particularly related to the fields of asthma, allergy, and indoor air quality. What I'd like to cover this morning is to start with a little bit of background on asthma and allergy, the incidence of the disease in the US, the various market sizes, but also speak a little bit about why a consumer product certification program is necessary in this area. I'm then going to take us through how we test and certify products such as pillows and other textile products. I'll talk a little bit about other products such as vacuum cleaners and air cleaners, but I'm going to focus mainly on textile-based products, obviously, for today's audience. And then talk a little bit about how we grow awareness of the certification program. And then I have some slides on some free resources with regards to this area and our contact details. And then I believe Dina and Karen are going to run some Q&A. So just to talk about asthma and allergies, it is a disease that most commonly impacts on our upper airways and lower airways, things like allergic rhinitis and asthma, but also in the textile area it's very related to allergic dermatitis and other skin conditions. It can also present as complete disorder of the immune system related to food allergies, and you all, I'm sure, familiar with anaphylaxis, which is a very acute allergic reaction to things like peanuts and other food. But I'm going to talk mainly about asthma and allergies as they relate to respiratory issues and skin issues. So the symptoms of asthma and allergies are triggered or are set off by things that we call our trigger factors. And these are related essentially to indoor air quality and break down into two kind of buckets. One are allergens or bioburden, and they're related to things such as dust mites and pet dander. And then irritants, which are associated traditionally with outdoor air quality, but now as we are sealing and tightening our buildings for energy efficiency, things as chemical irritants get into our indoor environment, they build up in textiles, outgas from furniture and other home furnishings like formaldehyde and VOCs. And these are all trigger factors for asthma and allergy. So if we look at the prevalence in America, it's around 60 million Americans, slightly more in the latest research. It breaks down to about 50 million with allergies, and of those, there's also 20 million with asthma as well. What's interesting, as you'll see in the slide here, that's about a 100% increase in the last 30 years. And there's many reasons for this. The data and research speaks to a number of things in the Western world of how this has happened. There isn't one particular issue, but the aspect is our lifestyle choices have now made this condition the #1 disease of children and the leading cause of ER visits. So it's very prevalent and the trend is increasing. If you look at that on an infographic, if you were to take the 6 most common disease states in America and add them all together, you still wouldn't have as many people who are impacted by asthma and allergies. And on a household basis, that's nearly 70% of Americans. So it's very much something growing on the mind of consumer sentiment and part of the value stack when people are choosing products. On a disease burden cost, a cost to the state, it's estimated that consumers spend about 10 billion annually on asthma medications, both over-the-counter and prescription. What's interesting, though, is that the amount that we spend on environmental control products, which are products to improve our indoor air quality, such as air purifiers, air cleaning devices, bedding products with allergen control products, add up to around 26 billion products. And again, the trend there very much is increasing as consumers look to be very proactive about this issue, and rather than just relying on medication, are now taking control of their own selection of products and choosing products that improve their indoor air quality. So what do the experts say about this whole issue? Well, if you look at a lot of the government and non-governmental organizations, they're very vocal about the issue. The US EPA says that 5 times indoor air quality can be 5 times more polluted than outdoor air quality. Again, a lot of that is about energy efficiency drives, but also about what we choose to bring into our environment in the form of building materials, textiles, and cleaning products. The National Institute of Health says this concept of improving indoor air quality or avoiding allergen triggers can only be dealt with by a multifaceted or whole-of-home approach. So it's very much a lifestyle choice and about building a healthy home and choosing a number of products that are targeted to this goal. Interestingly, the medical experts also say, such as the Journal of Allergy and Clinical Immunology and the National Heart, Lung and Blood Institute, speak about the issue that the demand for these products are increasing all the time and consumers are looking for them. However, there's very little regulation in the environment about products that are targeted for this requirement, and often claims that are on products like allergy-free or hypoallergenic are not subject to standardized testing. And if you go to the FDA, the US FDA website, and this is a piece of research I did for the webinar around this word hypoallergenic that you see used a lot in the textile industry, you'll see here where the red arrow is pointing to that there's actually no scientific substantiation required to use that term around hypoallergenicity. And then on the flip side of that, you'll see the Federal Trade Commission are now getting much more involved in this area and are actually beginning to police claims on products. This is from a vacuum cleaner company. You'll see that they made reference to its impact on allergens, but the data to support these claims was something that didn't stand up to scrutiny. So you really got a perfect storm building here. The issue of asthma and allergies is building. You've got a lot of very strong positions taken by federal organizations, but there's a real gap here with regards to who's actually policing these claims and where do consumers turn to. So we've very much identified from our market research a real requirement for certification and third-party testing in this area. The constituent profile we call the Health Maven, and they're very much, as I was saying, the proactive, educated consumer who's on the internet researching products, speaking to her peer groups, looking for third-party validation on claims. And it's all about trust and about can manufacturers keep the promises they make on products, and where do they turn to have a scientific validation of these claims. And we're seeing this across the spectrum of the industry. Often the food industry leads the way in these trends, such as organic or the American Heart Association. But obviously in the textile industry, the Woolmark has been around as a certification mark for a long time. I'm sure you're all very familiar with the Ecotech certification and increasingly the global organic and cradle-to-cradle type certifications. So we felt, building on this trend for third-party consumer certification symbols in this field of asthma and allergy, our vision is to create a consumer-friendly and trusted source of advice that is very recognizable and is the gold standard, and the products that carry the certification are deemed best in breed or best in class and have been substantiated to third-party testing. It's a very unique certification program because it's a coming together or a joint venture of two types of organization. The organization I head up, Allergy Standards, which is an international standards body that develops the certification protocols. And then, very importantly, the second pillar of the certification program is the consumer advocacy point of view, which is the Asthma and Allergy Foundation of America, who are advocates for this group. They are the largest .org in America for this constituency or this group of people, and have been operating for over 60 years in the US and are headquartered out of Washington, DC. So the certification symbol itself is, as I say, it's a combination of a scientific organization and then a patient or a .org, and offers an opportunity for third-party validation of your products, but also that second pillar, which is the public relations opportunity, earned media and education around messaging with regards to an issue that there's a very large body of people that are very engaged, very animated, and very proactive around. What we try to do with the certification program is it's at the point of purchase, so it's on product, at the point of retail. That now extends to obviously the digital environment, to the mobile environment, and we have an app which I'll talk a little bit more about at the end of the webinar, where you can scan barcodes of products and download and understand a lot of the details about the testing and what it means for them. The certification symbol, when you see it, tells consumers that this product has achieved a standard and they can validate what that standard is online. But it also helps manufacturers call out the fact that they make better products and they've invested in sourcing better materials, better quality products, and also helps them stay compliant with labeling guidelines, both at the moment and the ones that are coming down the tracks in the future, as we saw earlier in the presentation with regards to the Federal Trade Commission, the EPA, and the Consumer Product Safety Commission. So that's the first part of the presentation. Just talks a little bit about the market, the requirement, and the goals and the visions of the certification mark. So in order to have a credible certification mark, you need to have good science and need to be able to test and certify products to your standards. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how we develop our standards and how we test. So going back to this concept that I showed that the National Institute of Health said at the beginning, that the approach to optimizing a healthy home or improving the indoor environment cannot be achieved just with one product category or one strategy. It's very much a lifestyle, healthy home, and a multi-room approach. So we have tried to develop standards that cover all aspects of the home, whether it's furnace filters, to vacuum cleaners, to air cleaners, to building materials and cleaning products, and then most importantly for the audience for today, home textiles and home furnishings, so pillows, duvets, comforters, mattresses, and everything targeted at the bedroom and other areas of the home where the potential for bioburden, dust mite, cat dander to build up. So when we develop a standard and the resultant test protocol for that, we first start with a literature review. We look at position papers of ASTM, of the American Academy of Asthma, Allergy, Immunology. We may look at California guidelines, often Scandinavia or Japan can be very ahead in limit levels and criteria for various categories. And we distill all the literature that we review to come to our standards and our protocols with limit levels, performance criteria, suitability criteria. And then very importantly, our standards are then sent to the Asthma and Allergy Foundation of America, who operate a peer review process with their medical review board. And they challenge the limit levels, they ask for evidence to support why you've selected a certain criteria. And it's a very good process. As I say, it's evidence-based and peer-reviewed, and takes a number of weeks before we finally agree and vote on a standard. They're then actually reviewed on an annual to 2-year basis. And once the standard has been adopted, the standards are then, we publish the abstracts online, and then we're able to then begin the testing protocols for particular criteria. And for today's webinar, I've just taken, say, bedding, or how to give a quick overview of how you go about certifying a pillow, for example. And it breaks down into 3 areas, and it's a holistic examination of the product. And if you fail any piece of the testing or sequence of the algorithm, the whole product fails. And it breaks down to chemical, so very similar to marks that are out there, like Ecotech certification, for example. So it's a very good standard in the category it operates. And we look at allergenic dyestuffs, we look at emissions of things like formaldehyde and other things that can get into textiles that can cause contact dermatitis, skin irritancy, or outgassing, which can cause asthma and hypersensitive airway reactions. We then importantly look at the physical attributes of the product. Can it be washed at certain temperatures? Does it maintain certain quality after being washing? And then also, very importantly, comfort physiology. So we would look at airflow, we would look at water vapor transmission rates, because traditionally products that have been targeted at asthma and allergy management have been quite uncomfortable or noisy products which people just wouldn't use. So that's a very important part of our testing. And then the third phase then is the allergen assessment, which is done both on a passive allergen over a long period, up to 12-week longitudinal time and motion studies, where the products are put into environmental climate control chambers, as well as acute phase testing, where we're looking at modified dust trap simulated use tests, and I have some slides on those a little bit later on. But we're looking at the ability for the product to harbor allergens, or allergens to be removed in certain washing techniques. So on this slide, there's some screen grabs of the laboratory. You'll see some of the emission chambers, the large walk-in climate control chambers I spoke about. You'll see some of the washing machines. These are the IEC or ASTM standard washing machines we'll use for washing protocols. And you'll see some examples of pillows, 30 representative samples of pillows arriving at the laboratory to be tested in all the various aspects of the certification algorithm, and a technician at the bottom challenging the various products with dust mite colonies, etc. So it's, as you would expect, the certification process is a standard. Submission forms are sent in, samples are sent to the laboratory, the samples are given a unique testing identification, they're photographed, and the timelines and a project map is set up with the client, and then the testing begins. And we use a network of ISO and ASTM accredited laboratories. The one we use in Ireland is a company called Airmid Health Group, which is an ISO accredited test laboratory for immunoassay testing for allergens. And we use other laboratories for other tests. For example, we use Testex in Zurich for some of our testing. And then an interim report is sent to the client, a final report with the certificate that the product, if it's successful, is awarded. The next slide, I've just shown some photographs of particular allergen filtration studies, looking at the textiles, the ticking fabric as being an effective allergen barrier. The one on the left of my screen is the modified dust trap. It's well published in the literature as being the best type of test for looking at allergen filtration across the fabric membrane. The one on the right, simulated use test, is probably more appropriately used where there's less or no airflow in a product like a laminated or waterproof product, and there's physical agitation of the fabric under test, using ball bearings and a rocker for 24 hours and seeing how much allergen is transmitted through the product. So there's some slides giving you a very quick overview of the testing and the principles of testing. And as I said early in the presentation, the actual public relations and the educational marketing and the promotion of the program is very key. It's the second pillar in association with our educational partner, the Asthma and Allergy Foundation. And it's not just a label that's put on a product after it passes testing and that's the end of it. There's very much a whole community and a forum around it where we use as I said, the educational public relations component of the program to build visibility in consumers' and retailers' minds. So some of our certification brands, if you cast your mind back to that picture of that house, these are clients in the program. As I mentioned, people like P&G for cleaning products. Stanley Steamer is a steam cleaning service for your house. It's actually a cleaning service. 3M furnace filters, and then LG and Dyson electrical appliances. And then some of the names that you'll recognize, such as Hollander, Protector Bed, and with new clients in the program, such as Downlight with the Martha Stewart line of bedding. And the retailers are very engaged in this. It gives them an opportunity both in their .com offering and their in-store offering to do webinars of themselves, bringing back traditional steam cleaning, how to stay engaged with their audience, how to build brand purpose and sense of community. So the content and the educational marketing of the program works very well with retailers. We just recently launched a whole end cap series with the Home Depot on some of our building materials that Owens Corning. It's a home insulation called Pure Safety, and that's a retailer initiative we've just rolled out in an adjacent category. I've mentioned several times about content and educational marketing, and we are often asked to write educational pieces or to appear on TV around this issue. As I said, it's very much a growing issue, and either ourselves or with our clients, we've done pieces in Good Housekeeping magazine, Oprah Winfrey magazine, and so on and so forth. Here's an example of how our clients use the certification. This is Hollander. I'm sure you're all very familiar with Hollander, the largest pillow manufacturer in the world. In a publication I'm sure you're very familiar with, Home Textiles Today, they're taking out a press release with regards to gaining certification in a criteria. The next slide, this is some work we did with LG, obviously the laundry, the washing machine that is certified, and a whole piece of PR we did with them around pillows and bed linen and washing your products. So there's good link up, even though you may be a textile company, with some of our other clients such as laundry and vacuum cleaners. This is some work we did on Good Morning America, where there was a whole piece about getting a good night's rest, and it's all about the pillow and about the bedding and your mattress. And again, they turned for us and profiled the certification program and also the science behind controlling allergens in the bedroom. We also, as I mentioned, we've done some work with Good Housekeeping. This is a review by Consumer Reports, and it's nice to see that they, as reviewers themselves, are actually reviewing our certification as something to look for. This is a piece they did on paints recently, and they profiled all the certification symbols in the industry, and they highlighted ours as something to look for. So again, we don't see Consumer Reports as being a competitor organization, and we're very happy the fact that they're reviewing our certification as something to look for. We work a lot. We have a number of physician ambassadors in the certification program. Dr. Clifford Bassett is one of our lead physicians in New York, and has often profiled us on a section on CNN with Dr. Gupta. But again, I want to get across the aspect that the education, patient outreach, linking up the dots, the full circle from the physician diagnosis to point of retail to the laboratory and working with patient advocacy groups. There's a good link up between all the groups. So we test what we say. This is some of our year-on-year consumer sentiment studies, awareness data and attitudinal data. So Dina will be circulating the slides after the webinar, and be more than happy to send you more reports on this. But there's some good pieces to pick out. Our 2016 data on our 2015 data, just showing that people on the whole think our products that are certified are a better choice and would preferentially buy a product over another product that wasn't certified. And they feel that it's not only the product is better quality, but the sentiment about a company that actually invests in a certification mark is very strong as well. So some nice data there. So I'm just going to wrap up on the last couple of slides. Just want to direct you to a couple of websites, or 3 websites in total. One is asthmaandallergyfriendly.com, which is the B2C component of the website, the consumer facing, and you can join all the Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn links there. There's some video, and you'll be able to see products that are certified, search the product registry. The one on the right of my screen, the Allergy Standards website, is more our B2B website. It's much more clinical, it's much more laboratory based, talks about the standards and talks about the technology, and is more B2B focused. And then at the bottom of the page, I just put a quick screen grab there. It's available on Android as well, but you can go to iTunes and download our certification app and scan barcodes of products. There is an interactive forum function of it, so where you can upload photographs of products that aren't certified, let us know, or join in a discussion and join in the debate there. I really encourage you to get involved in the community, both online and on app. So that's my final slide. I hope that was a good description of asthma and allergy as the issue, how it's very much becoming increasing in consumer sentiment, a little bit about why a program is needed, and how we test uniquely to the certification standard, and then the second pillar being the education and the consumer aspect that's done through the .org or the patient advocacy group. So we have an office in Midtown on Park Avenue in New York. Courtney is our head of business development. She's based in New York. I've put Courtney's details on this slide here that you will have after the webinar. And we produce a ton of content. More than happy to send on some free resources we have with regards to an ebook on labeling, what 3 things that can catch you out about regards to labeling and falling foul of the Federal Trade Commission. So we do produce a lot of educational content, and if you get in touch with Courtney, we're more than happy to send you on some information around this whole area.
Wonderful, John. Thank you so very much. That was fantastic. I do have a couple of questions for you, John, and of course the first one is, I'm sure it's not a surprise, but the first one is basically how much and how long. So in other words, if you could take us through, use an example of a pillow or whatever you're comfortable with, but what would the cost be for a certification, and generally speaking, how long does that take?
Sure. Well, when I answer the cost one straight away, but so I mean, I can give you a standard rate card for a pillow certification is about $12,000 US. It's very unusual that somebody would just send us one pillow to be tested. Often they will have a line of bedding products that the ticking fabric may cross over to comforters or to a pillow encasing. So we try to build out a testing project matrix or a grid, looking at the various components and running them through the algorithm. But that doesn't mean every product needs to be tested in every way, and it may be possible to build up a project map with a library of textiles and components that people can draw from. But if you were just to say, I'm just going to send you one pillow, I want it fully tested and I want to get the certification, the rate card for that testing is $12,000 US. And the process would start by logging on to the web page, and there's a submission form. Claire Myrna is the head of the project testing in the laboratory. Claire would send you on a standard submission form. You'd fill out the various details, and there's a request for samples aspect on that, looking at various embroidery threads, ticking fabric, some of the filling. Probably it's good to have an initial phone call once you've submitted the papers, just to iron out any details or questions. And at the end of that, a project would be agreed with an estimate. And usually it's around 12 weeks for testing, for a standard testing to go all the way through. Sometimes our clients would like just to get a component tested, just to say, can you check this is a good allergen filter, and just do that piece, and then check back with me, so kind of almost like look-see testing or interim testing. And that will take longer as you build up a whole project. But if you were to start and go all the way through, you're talking around 12 weeks.
Okay, and you might want to, sorry, John, you might want to just, because there were a couple questions about, I'm a fabric manufacturer, can I get my product certified? So you might want to just sort of talk about what you were discussing there in terms of a modular approach to getting the component pieces certified, so that the end product itself would then, you know, in the case of a pillow, if the component parts were certified, would the pillow still be at that $12,000 rate?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Generally, to date, most of our clients have been the converter, the cut and sew person, the person who makes the final product. But we are happy to go upstream or further back in the supply chain and work with the people they source their textiles from. And often we may do that together. We've done that quite a lot in the toy industry, where you may have a cut and sew toy manufacturer, even a licensee, who will put us in touch with the person who supplies the plush material, and we'll work with them directly. And if a component is pre-certified or component certified, obviously the cut and sew or the finished product would have exemptions for that, subject to audit and conformity certificates and the standard paper-based evidence of that. And there will be discounts off that. So we are seeing increasingly both the cut and sew or the converter and the person they source from working together, and that actually speeds up testing as well, because you can move straight into some of the wash testing because the chemical upstream testing has been done.
Very good. Thank you for that. John, can you page back to the page where you were showing the retailers that you're working with? We have a good group of folks here from the home textile. I know both apparel and home textiles, but in home textiles in particular, the question is, do you know of retailers in the home textile category that are requesting or requiring that their products become certified?
We're hearing increasingly that across the board. I probably shouldn't say. I could maybe answer it offline later on. I don't want to give away spec sheets or requirements exactly of particular retailers, but we have heard a number of them are now speccing it on their sheets and saying the price of entry into this category is to be certified. I think a reason why they're doing that is to cover themselves, and I think they should be doing that, because if they're making an allergy claim and they've looked at a testing report that the product is a good allergen filter, so the claim that it's an allergen barrier may be correct, but it also then may have a harsh or a harmful chemical. So they could be characterizing it as good for people with asthma and allergies, but they haven't checked the chemical constituents or the fact it can be washed at a certain temperature. So our certification is holistic and actually will cover off a lot of potential risk or pitfalls for them. So a number of them are now doing that, of the mainstream ones that are on this slide. I probably shouldn't specify exactly who they are, but we're increasingly hearing that from them, that this is what they wish to have.
Right, good. And I think as the audience gets contact information, they can follow up directly with you on that for sure. And I would certainly recommend doing that. John, can you speak to when somebody actually does get certification, what are the types of things they are, well, the word here is allowed, but what are the types of things they can positively promote about the product? Can they use the word, for instance, hypoallergenic? Are there other things that they could be using once their product is certified?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, on the word hypoallergenic, we recommend them not to use that, because that's one of our words that anybody can use. So if they want to have a fair playing field, because what can happen is that they could put all this investment into sourcing a product, into designing a product, and come up with a superior product. If they use the word hypoallergenic, anybody can use that who hasn't spent any of their money, who hasn't invested in R&D or research. So they're playing on the same level playing field, although they've actually done a lot more work. So we think hypoallergenic is a word that will increasingly become more contested, and a lot of PR is going to be generated around it. So we would ask them to focus on what they can say with regards to certifications, playing the game where they can win. And what actually happens is we have a welcome kit to the program. More often than not, our clients, once they're in the program and have their certificates and they're all up to speed on all their paperwork, they will go down to Washington, D.C., meet with the folks at the Asthma and Allergy Foundation and spend a day brainstorming, bring their PR company, their marketing company, their ad buying company, and they will have a full strategic planning day. We've a lot of lessons learned about the audience, about how to approach the audience, what messaging to use. We've done launches for LG and laundry. We've done launches for Swiffer with Procter & Gamble. So we have a lot of expertise and experience about launching when you're in the program. And the kit will be a checklist of getting your product up onto the website, getting the images correct on our website, making sure you're working with our app. There's a brand manual that comes with certification that gives you statements you can use. It's very important, for example, like the Federal Trade Commission slide I showed, you don't stray into clinical claims. A lot of people do that with allergy bedding, and that will get them into trouble. So we coach them and give them a brand manual about claims to make and what claims they shouldn't make. Often they will do a press release, like you saw with Hollander, and they will do some other media, and they will have a media calendar, and where we could sit down and say, give them quotes for events they'll be at, trade shows they'll be at. They often will ask for a corporate letter that they may present at a trade show. So there's a whole pack, an onboarding, a welcoming pack, both strategic and tactical, we do when clients join the program.
Right. I think that answers specifically the question about what can be said on packaging, what can be said on hang tags, what can be said on websites. I think that's a great tool, John, that you're offering folks who become certified. From the retailer's perspective, John, we have some retailers who are asking the question, and I think you touched on it, but if you can go a little bit more in depth, if I'm a retailer, how do I find products that are certified, if I want to buy products for my stores?
Well, sure. Well, I mean, contact us is the easiest way. Just go to asthmaAllergyFriendly.com or just have a quick call with Courtney in New York, and she can pair you off with various people. Bed Bath & Beyond is on there. They did a really good initiative last year, which was in-store signage, but you took a photograph or a scan of a QR code, a quick response code in store, and it logged you onto a webinar talking about bringing back the traditional spring clean. And it was sponsored by Dyson, who are one of our certified clients, Boner, a cleaning company that are certified. And it was a really good, engaging piece of content run by Bed Bath & Beyond that engaged their audience but profiled a lot of certified products around the concept of spring cleaning. So we really want to get involved with retailers. We think it helps them around brand loyalty and brand purpose and community engagement and forums and chat rooms. So if there's any retailers who want to try and, as I said, we're doing an end cap with Home Depot at the moment, or to aggregate some of the products in an allergy aisle or something like that, and wrap a educational content piece around it, like a webinar, we'd be more than happy to talk about that. So just contact Courtney directly.
So, John, and I'm jumping around a little bit here in my questions, folks, so forgive me, but John, you might want to just talk a little bit about the NCAP that you mentioned. So the question is about cooperative marketing funds, whether or not they are available for brands or retailers if they are going to try and promote this all the way to the consumer level, this certification all the way to the consumer level.
Yeah. I mean, one person, I'm sure he won't mind me dropping his name, but Dave Vanderwall from LG is actually looking at an initiative like that, and he's been tasked with aggregating our clients within the program and building a cooperative piece. That will probably come from our clients ourselves. We wouldn't do it. We wouldn't see that we should get into that, but we facilitate it. And once it's up and running, which we've done before, where there's been a gift with purchase, so you are buying one product and you either get a coupon or you get a free, so say you're buying a vacuum cleaner, you get a free pillow with it. So a bit of joined up thinking around that. Certainly once our clients come together, we would underpin that initiative with the signage, the educational content and the outreach, and really give that the coming together or the cooperation some marketing content.
That's good. That's a good explanation. John, do you see this certification growing quicker in certain categories versus others? I'm assuming this means perhaps, for instance, take the vacuum cleaner segment versus home textiles. Do you see that this is taking off more quickly in one versus other category?
Well, I think, interestingly enough, the two you just mentioned there, I think going back to the specification piece about retailers, I think that really is a breakthrough for the program. We've been around for 10 years, but it's kind of taken us 10 years to work it out, and we're really seeing it taking off in a number of categories. Retailers now speccing it or calling it the price to entry to the category, I think will drive a lot more uptake in certainly the home textiles, and it's very much going to become an opt-out rather than opt-in. To date, we had 2 or 3 years ago, we just had some of the very large ones like the Hollanders of the world in the program. Now it's becoming, I need to have it because other people have it. It's, as I said, the price of entry to the category. So we think it's a very good thing. It's really going to be something that's going to grow in home textiles. But likewise, vacuum cleaners as well. We would have LG, we would have Samsung, we would have Dyson, Rexair, some of the Kenmore brands, because I think people really associate a good vacuum cleaner with good air quality and related to asthma and allergies. Interestingly, there are other products that actually, if you look at the National Institute of Health, they actually think are more important, such as laundry. They say a good washing machine is the cornerstone of asthma and allergy management in the home. And obviously that then links back to textiles as well. So I would say home textiles definitely number one, vacuum cleaners number two, and then increasingly building materials like paint, flooring coverings. With the Home Depot initiative now, I think people are very tuned into the concept of VOCs and indoor air quality.
Good. And folks, I have 2 more questions from everyone here, so if you do have more, go ahead and keep sending them in. We have a few more minutes, so I'm sure that John is happy to stay with us for as long as it takes. John, can you just speak to, you mentioned that you've been around for 10 years, can you just speak to sort of at the consumer level, what you feel like the level of awareness is for a certification like yours?
Yeah, I think we do track this. We do Harrison or Nielsen data year on year. Obviously, our clients like the Dysons of the world, Stanley Steamer, they track it. And I think what's very encouraging is clients like Dyson have been in for that nearly full 10 years, and not only have added more and more floor care vacuum cleaners, the cylinder vacuum cleaners, now they're battery-operated vacuums. They've actually doubled down on the program and added in their air care. They actually call it environmental care, but their humidifiers and their air purifiers. So they obviously are very encouraged by the data they receive of the awareness that they're broadening and deepening their involvement in the program. We have about a 90% retention rate. A number of people have left for various business issues that they had during the downturn. But the data that our clients have is very strong, which shows that they're growing. Our own data shows we're around about, unprompted, around about 28-30% awareness now of the general population. That's the non-asthma and allergy community, the kind of Health Maven audience we're speaking about. And we're very excited about that, because if you look at Simon Sinek's book, The Law of Diffusion and Innovation and Crossing the Chasm, you always will get very early adopters, people rush out and buy the first iPhone. But when you get over that chasm, that 30%, you're really now getting into the early majority and becoming mainstream. So our last data now is showing us consistently being the other side of that chasm and being north of 30%. So we feel we're at a real takeoff point now.
Good. Very, very good. John, you mentioned laboratories in Europe that you are working with to help certify products. Are there labs in the States that are able to carry out the certification process for you?
Yeah, we specify specifically the Dublin-based laboratory for the immunoassay testing, because they are the only lab that has this international accreditation. So that is the one that needs to be used for the assays. We do work with the other big labs, as it were. We work a lot with Textiles. In Zurich, obviously, they have the Ecotex connection, so there's a very good fit there. But we'll also work with the other big ones, the SGSs of the world, Intertek and Bureau Veritas, for standardized testing, such as wash testing, crocking, and the other kind of fabric repertoire. So where we can, and a client may work with BV in Shenzhen or SGS in Hong Kong, we will try to collaborate with them as long as independent third-party data that's verified, and we will allow them to test part of our protocols to assist them to get into the program. So we will work with a network under license, but we would like to work with that lab directly and be introduced on behalf of the client and have a direct relationship, just so it's not been seen that they're testing on or the client directly. We have a two-way relationship with the laboratory.
Perfect. So that is all the questions I have, unless I have any last-minute ones that you go ahead and send them in if you do. But if we don't, I would like to thank Dr. John McKeon of Allergy Standards. Well done, John, my friend. Folks, yes, I had this question, as I always do. I promise I will get this presentation out to you, as well as a link to the recording as soon as I can, I hope by the end of the week. John, thank you so very much. We do not have any other questions, so I will end it here and thank our audience for tuning in today. Thanks, everyone.
That's great, Gina. Thank you very much for having us.